Euripides and the World of Fireless Lightning.
Written by Michael Mulambuzi, narrated by AI, a drift theory production. A journey through memory, machines, and the silence between souls. Euripides, the ancient Greek playwright, awakens in a world ruled not by fire, but by current. In 7 days, he walks the neon-lit streets of the future, witnessing machines that think, lights without flame, and a silence that stretches between souls. This poetic, philosophical journey explores the cost of progress, the loneliness of modern life, and the forgotten sacredness of memory and craft. The world of fireless lightning is not a warning, it is a remembrance, a bridge between what we were and what we may become. Before the fire, there was night, and in that night, humankind learned how to listen to the wind, to the stars, to each other. But when fire came, it changed everything. It gave warmth, protection, vision, and then it gave stories. Fire was not just survival, it was meaning. The hearth became the heart of memory. Now imagine a world where fire has been forgotten, not lost, but replaced. A world where darkness is erased by an invisible force, where the stars are hidden by glass towers, and stories come from screens, not from mouths. This is the world Euripides wakes into, a man of fire, stepping into the current. Imagine a candle, suddenly dropped into a city of neon. That is where Chapter 1 begins.
Euripides and the World of Fireless Lightning. Chapter 1. The Temple That Shouldn't Exist. I awoke not in Athens nor Elysium, but in a world neither living nor dead, a place where fire had vanished, yet the light remained. There was no sun, yet the heavens glowed, no torches, yet the streets shimmered in white, cold radiance, as if Prometheus had given mankind not flame, but lightning. I stood upon a road of black stones, smooth as polished obsidian, and beasts of iron roared past me, with eyes that burned white and red. They did not breathe, they did not neigh nor gallop, but they moved swiftly, with purpose, and never paused to eat or sleep. What creatures are these? I whispered, and what great sorcery commands them? Above me rose towers, tall as Olympus, but made not of marble or timber, but of glass, and metal, and light. They hummed. Yes, the buildings hummed, a deep, invisible sound, as though they were alive and dreaming. I wandered. No one looked at me. Each soul passed by with glowing oracles in hand, small tablets that spoke, that sang, that showed visions. They carry gods in their palms, I said. Each man a priest of his own private altar, each woman a prophetess staring into light. They did not speak to one another, not with lips. Their faces were solemn, touched not by wind, but by glow. Where were the fires? Where were the hearths? Where was the smell of baked bread, the clang of hammer on bronze? Gone. In their place, boxes that heat without flame, walls that talk, chariots with no horses, music with no lyre, a world with no silence. I asked a child, or what I thought was a child, what this place was. He said one word, New York. Then he put tiny sponges in his ears and vanished into a song. No one else could hear. I sat upon a bench made of cold metal, beneath a tree made of light, and I wept, not from sorrow nor joy, but from awe. For in this strange world they had conquered darkness, but in doing so, I feared they had forgotten how to dream in it. End of Chapter 1.
Next is Chapter 2, The Fire That Does Not Burn, where Euripides learns about electricity and its divine-like presence in modern life. In every ancient myth, fire is a gift stolen from the gods. Prometheus, Maui, the sacred spark, wrestled from the heavens and given to mortals so we might survive the night. To hold fire was to hold power. But fire demanded sacrifice. Wood, breath, ash, care. It burned. It taught us limits. And now, imagine a flame that gives light, but takes nothing. No heat, no smoke, no scent. A flame made of pure current, invisible, eternal, unquestioned. This is what Euripides finds. A world lit not by reverence, but by convenience. Electricity. The lightning no longer feared, but harnessed, tapped, tamed. But even the taming of the gods comes at a cost. And so we begin.
Euripides and the world of fireless lightning. Chapter 2. The fire that does not burn. In my time, fire was sacred, born of wood and spark, tended with care, offered to the gods, shared between souls. Without fire, there was no life, no warmth, no feast, no theatre. So imagine, dear reader, if there are any left who read, my terror, when I saw a city without flame, and yet everything moved, everything lived, and everything glowed, not with fire, but with something else. It was not heat, though it could cook. It was not flame, though it gave light. It hummed, it flowed, it vanished into walls. They called it electricity. A man in robes, though they called them uniforms, explained it to me, as one might explain divinity to a rock. It's energy, he said, a kind of current, a force. It runs through wires. We use it for everything now. And what god grants you this? I asked. He laughed. They always laugh when I speak of gods. As if the world built itself. He showed me a bolt, not of thunder but of simulation, captured in a glass rod, tamed in coils of copper, summoned by switches. We don't burn wood anymore, he said. We flip a switch. And with that, light bloomed from nowhere, like Apollo himself waking from a dream. In the days of Athens, a single flame could mean survival. One ember passed from house to house was sacred. Now they summon day with a fingertip, banishing night as if it were an inconvenience. But I wonder, if you never face the dark, can you still understand the light? I touched a screen, flat, glowing, and images danced beneath my hand. Plays, stories, battles, dreams, all inside the tablet, no chorus, no actors, no blood, no breath, just shadows made of numbers. The theatre, reduced to a glow in the palm, and yet they call this progress. They call it freedom. But I do not see people celebrating. I see them marching, fast, always fast. Eyes locked on glowing rectangles, voices locked in wires, no hearth, no gathering, no songs, only current. They have discovered a fire that does not burn, a god without altar, a light without warmth, and I am filled with wonder, and I am filled with fear, for if fire once gave us community, what does this fire give, and what does it take away? End of chapter 2.
Next is chapter 3, where Euripides explores how electricity changed human connection, leading into themes of loneliness, speed, and the death of presence. In the ancient world, distance was measured not in steps, but in stories. To reach another was to journey through space, through danger, through time. And when two people met, they met fully, with presence, with voice, with shared breath beneath the stars. But now, distance has been destroyed. Voices fly through glass. Faces beam from pocket-sized mirrors. Words multiply across invisible threads. We are more connected than ever, and yet more alone than we've ever been. Euripides walks among a people who speak without speaking, who listen without hearing, who gather in silence, each soul adrift in a separate storm of light. This is not the silence of the theatre, where hearts lean in. It is the silence of forgetting how to be together. And so we descend.
Euripides and the world of fireless lightning. Chapter 3. The silence between souls. In Athens, when the sun dipped low and the torches were lit, we gathered, we shared wine, we sang songs, we debated with fire in our words and laughter in our lungs. We touched, we listened, we were there. But here, in this bright, humming world, I feel a quiet unlike any I have ever known. Every man walks with a voice in his ear. Every woman stares into a glowing veil. Children no longer chase the wind. They chase reflections. In tiny screens, I sat at a marketplace, or what they now call a food court. Dozens of people sat at tables, each one alone, speaking to someone who was not there. Their mouths did not move. Their hands flicked and tapped. Their eyes never met. I watched lovers sit across from one another without speaking a word. "You are together," I whispered, but not with each other. In my time, silence was sacred. The silence before the first line of a play, the silence as a friend listened to your grief. But this is not sacred silence. This is separation. They have built a world where voices fly through invisible wires, where faces appear in glass, where thoughts become text in the blink of an eye. A marvel, yes, but also a prison. For in this fireless light so much is said, and so little is heard. They speak faster than Hermes, but do they speak with care? They share more than the poets ever dreamed, but do they share with meaning? I spoke to a woman. She held a glowing mirror in her hand. A phone, she called it. She told me her entire life could be found there. Her memories, her friends, her thoughts, her face. But when I asked her what she feared most, she looked up at me, truly looked, and said, "Silence. I do not judge them. I am not a god. But I wonder if they fear silence, is it because it reminds them of what they've lost? In this world of current and connection, they are more linked than ever before, but perhaps never further apart. The wires are strong, but the thread between hearts, that grows thin." End of chapter 3.
Next, we continue with chapter 4, The Death of Craft and Memory, where Euripides explores what happens when no one remembers how to build, repair, or understand the very tools they use every day. Every tool once held a story. A pot told of the hands that shaped it. A spear knew the rhythm of the hunt. A theatre mask carried the breath of its actor and the tears of every tragedy it had seen. Craft was not just skill, it was memory, passed through fingers, preserved in motion. But in this age of lightning, the hands are idle, the tools are perfect, the tasks are done, and no one remembers how. Euripides begins to notice it. The smoothness of surfaces, the silence of effort, the emptiness of machines that never sleep and never pause to wonder. The world still moves, faster than ever, but fewer remember what makes it move. When tools no longer teach, and when labor no longer humbles, what becomes of the soul? And so we enter the hollow beauty of efficiency.
Euripides and the World of Fireless Lightning, Chapter 4, The Death of Craft and Memory. In the Athens of my youth, a man knew the weight of his tools. He knew how to shape wood, bend bronze, stitch leather, mix pigments from the earth. To create was to understand. To shape was to remember. We built with hands. We taught with hands. And in doing so, we passed ourselves down through time. Here, I see miracles, but no memory. A boy holds a glowing box. He calls it a laptop. With it, he can summon music, images, maps of the heavens. But he does not know how it sings or what lies inside, only that it works until it doesn't. Then he throws it away. I walked past a shop selling smart machines, ovens, mirrors, even a door that speaks. But when I asked how they function, the merchant laughed. "You don't need to know. It does everything for you. Everything. For you." And so they forget. They forget how to cook, how to mend, how to heal without glowing lights or blinking devices. They've built a world. So clever, they no longer need to remember anything. And that terrifies me. In my time, we revered memory. Poets carried epics in their minds. Not just stories, but lineages, laws, histories. Now everything is stored in the cloud. But clouds disappear. I visited a museum where they displayed tools from the past. A stone axe, a loom, a book. Relics, they called them. Useless now. Dead. But to me, they were alive. For in those rough things was the soul of a people. In the mark of the hand dash, the imperfect edge, was knowledge and care and continuity. Today's machines are perfect. seamless, silent, and empty. They do not remember their makers, and neither do the people. What happens to a civilization when its tools grow smarter and its people forget how they work? What happens when no one knows how to fix the world they live in? They have gained the power of gods, but surrendered the memory of men. End of chapter 4.
Continuing with chapter 5, Joy, Loneliness, and Endless Light, where Euripides reflects on the beauty and sorrow of this modern age and begins to ask whether he could ever belong in it. In the days of old, joy was a slow thing. It came with the harvest, with the embrace of a friend, with song shared around fire and eyes that met beneath the stars. Joy was not a flash. It was a rhythm, a tide, a season. But in this world, everything glows, everything moves. Happiness comes in bursts, bright, sharp, immediate dash, and then it's gone. Euripides begins to feel it, not just the wonder, but the weariness, not just the miracles, but the ache beneath them. He sees joy, but without presence. He sees company, without communion. In a world that never sleeps, never slows, never darkens, can joy truly take root? Or is it just another flash of light in an endless, flickering sky? And so we arrive in the quiet space between celebration and sorrow.
Euripides and the world of fireless lightning. Chapter 5. Joy, loneliness, and endless light. There is beauty here. I must speak this truth. The machines hum with promise. The buildings scrape the heavens. The water flows with perfect clarity, summoned by a single twist of the hand. They have conquered disease, defied gravity, woven dreams from circuits and sound. It is wondrous. And yet I have never felt so alone. This is a world where the night never comes. Even at its darkest hour, the cities glow, as if day itself has been imprisoned in a cage of glass and wire. "We no longer fear the dark," said a man. "We banished it, but I wonder, did they also banish what the dark gave us? Reflection, rest, mystery. They sleep beneath glowing screens. They wake to buzzing machines. There is no pause, no stillness, no surrender to silence. Even joy feels hurried. Laughter bursts out, then disappears into the wind. A photo is taken. A moment is captured. But who lives inside the moment anymore? I watched a group gather in a park. Their mouths smiled, but their eyes flicked toward their glowing oracles. Afraid to miss something, somewhere else. The world is at their fingertips, I thought, yet they cannot feel it. I do not say they are unhappy, but I do not see joy woven through their days. Like the loom of the old woman at the village well, I see flashes, bursts, moments that sparkle, then fade. Joy is no longer the rhythm of life. It is a thing pursued, chased through glowing mazes. And loneliness? It is the shadow cast by constant connection. They call this the age of light. But not all that glows is gold, for I see a people, drenched in brilliance, but dimmed in spirit. Still, I understand. This world is not cruel. It is not evil. It is simply fast, too fast for the soul to catch up, too bright for the stars to be seen. Would I choose to live here? I do not know. It is a world of miracles, but not of myth. It is a world of comfort, but not of communion. It is a world where every question is answered, but no one pauses long enough to ask the right ones. And yet, I do not despise it. I pity it. I admire it. I fear it. And above all, I marvel at it. End of chapter 5.
Continuing with chapter 6, The Machine World, where Euripides confronts automation, artificial intelligence, and the question of what happens when machines replace the sacred act of doing. In the age of myth, tools served man, and gods punished those who reached too far. Daedalus built wings, but Icarus flew too high. The line between invention and hubris was always razor thin. But in this new world, the machines do not wait for permission. They do not rest. They do not ask why. They simply do. Euripides watches as arms of steel build without builders. He hears voices that speak without breath. He sees art created by algorithms and stories told by circuits. It is a world that runs itself. But if no one remembers how the world is built, who will fix it when it breaks? If no one makes anything with their hands, what becomes of the soul that once lived in the craft? The machine world is perfect, precise, flawless, and yet it forgets. What happens when we create something so powerful? We no longer need to be powerful? Euripides does not fear the machines. He fears what we lose when we give them everything. And so we enter the age of steel and silence.
Euripides and the world of fireless lightning. Chapter 6. The machine world. In my time, to build was divine. We lifted stone with sweat and chant. We shaped clay with calloused hands. We carved marble with purpose dash. Each strike of the chisel a prayer to endure. Even the lowliest craftsman carried pride in his fingertips. He knew what he had made. But in this age of fireless lightning, I find machines that do all things. They carve, they cook, they count, they clean, they even think. I stood inside a building where no one labored, and yet everything moved. Arms of metal lifted crates with silent grace. Wheels spun with no touch. A voice, calm and without breath, guided me. Welcome. Please proceed to aisle 4. It was not a woman. It was a machine, shaped by man, speaking like man, but not alive. She does not feel tired, I whispered. She does not feel anything. And still they build more. They speak of artificial intelligence. Machines that learn, machines that write, machines that dream. But do they dream? Do they suffer doubt? Do they ache with longing? Do they wonder why? Once I watched a man type a question into his metal oracle. What is love? And the machine answered, dash, dash, faster than thought, colder than stone. Words, but no soul. The people seem proud of this. The gods of the new age are silicon and steel. But I wonder, when the plough moves itself, who will remember how to till the soil? When the poem writes itself, who will remember the tremble of the hand? The hesitation before the perfect word. In my Athens, the theatre was a sacred space. The actor wore the mask, but the soul beneath it trembled. Now, I fear the mask wears the man. They say machines will bring freedom, but I ask, freedom from what? From struggle? From mastery? From meaning? When the world no longer needs you, how do you know who you are? The machine world is efficient, precise, powerful. But it is empty of memory, empty of myth, empty of the small, imperfect wonders that made us human. What happens to a world where no one needs to do anything? Will they still remember how to be? End of chapter 6.
Next is chapter 7, The Choice, where Euripides faces the question, should he stay in the modern world or return to the shadows of history with what he's learned? Every story must return to a moment of stillness, not an ending, but a crossroad. Euripides has seen the miracles, cities made of light, machines that do the work of gods, a world that speaks without speaking, remembers without memory, moves without effort. He has also seen the silence, the forgetting, the loneliness hidden beneath the glow, and now, the offer. You can stay, they tell him. This can be your world, too. But what does it mean to belong to a world that has no fire, no theatre, no waiting, no wondering? This is not a question of time. It is a question of soul. What does it mean to be human in a world that no longer requires it? One choice remains, and so we arrive.
Euripides and the world of fireless lightning. Chapter 7. The Choice. 7 days. That is what the voice told me. Not a god's voice, not thunder nor prophecy, just a whisper in my sleep. You have 7 days, Euripides, to walk this world, to remember it, to choose. And now I stand at the threshold of the 8th. I have seen marvels beyond myth, men flying in metal birds, voices traveling through the air, a world built on invisible fire. I have seen pain too, loneliness hidden beneath light, a quiet sorrow in faces that never look up, a forgetting, not of history, but of humanity. They gave me an offer. You can stay, they said. We can make you papers, an identity, a name. As if a name alone could root me in this world. I wandered the streets for hours, watching. A man asked a machine for wisdom. A woman cried to her glowing mirror. Children gathered, each in their own digital cloud, never touching, never listening, and above it all, the great hum of the city, always glowing, always awake, never still. Could I stay here? Could I trade the wind-whispered olive groves for corridors of metal and light? Could I abandon fire, sacred, flawed, alive, for this unburning, ever-glowing current? I think of my theatre, of masks held by trembling hands, of stories sung beneath the stars. I think of memory, of scent and silence, of voices echoing in stone halls. Here they have gained so much, but what have they given up? To never wonder where your water comes from? To never taste bread still hot from ash? To never speak without wires? And they call this progress, and perhaps it is, but it is not mine. So I have made my choice. I will return to the smoke, to the fire, to the world that aches and remembers, not because it is better, but because it is alive, because even in its darkness, there is space for wonder. I will carry these words back with me. I do not know if anyone will believe them, but I will speak them just the same. I walked through a world of fireless lightning, and it changed me. End of chapter 7.
This is the end of the world of fireless lightning, where Euripides returns to the ancient world, carrying the impossible memory of a future no one believes in, and leaving behind a final reflection, not as a warning, but as a gift. Every journey into the future must end in the past. The circle closes, the fire returns, and with it, a man. Euripides has seen a world brighter than Olympus, faster than Hermes, more silent than Hades, and yet his heart longs not for the brilliance, but for the shadow, not for the speed, but for the slowness of knowing. He brings no souvenir, only memory, only words, a record, not of warnings, but of wonder, a whisper for those yet to forget. This is not his time, but it may still be his story.
I have returned. The air is warm again. The sun touches my face without filter or hum. The olives sway in the breeze. There is no roar of metal, no glow, no humming sky. Only birds and wind and the old silence. No one believes me. Of course they don't. They ask where I've been. They laugh when I speak of glowing stones and machines that think, and voices without mouths. They ask me if I saw the gods, and I say yes. But they no longer wear thunder. They wear glasses and wires and silence. I've written what I can. This book, this strange, imperfect thing, scratched into parchment with ink that fades too fast. A poor vessel for the light I tried to hold, but it is all I have, and perhaps that is enough. I do not write to warn. I do not write to condemn. I write to remember that there was a world so dazzling and so lonely that it made me weep with awe and ache, and perhaps one day this parchment will be found by a wanderer, a dreamer, a child who asks too many questions. Perhaps they will feel what I felt, the wonder, the weight, the soft ache of knowing that history is not a line, but a circle. We are not the first, and we may not be the last, but we are the ones who remember, and that too is a kind of fire. End of book. The inspiration for this book came from a single idea that every technology, at first, is indistinguishable from magic. Electricity is the perfect example. It's everywhere, in the walls, in our hands, under streets, above ceilings, behind screens. It hums, pulses, glows. It powers our civilization. And that's what struck me. What if someone from a world of torches and temple fires saw what we see every day and couldn't explain it with anything except the language of gods and spirits? Electricity changed everything. It gave us light without flame, communication without proximity, comfort without effort, and convenience without pause. It collapsed distances. It redefined time. It turned the extraordinary into the everyday. And that, I believe, is both its wonder and its danger. Because when something becomes normal, we stop seeing it. We stop asking how it works. We stop asking what it's doing to us. Euripides in this story is not just a character. He's a lens, a way to reflect on what we've created, what we've abandoned, and what we might yet rediscover. This is not a book about nostalgia. It's not about rejecting the modern world. It's about noticing it again. If you've ever stared at a glowing screen and felt more alone, if you've ever touched a piece of technology and wondered who really made it, if you've ever looked at a street lamp and imagined it was lightning or just light, held captive, then you've felt the spark that started this story. Thank you for listening. Thank you for remembering. Thank you for feeling the magic.